Representative Linsky will speak next, and I should mention that before he was elected to the legislature in 1999, for I believe 13 years, he worked for the Middlesex District Attorney's Office, so he's seen issues of public safety from many angles. Thank you for being here, Representative.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks to the Natick Board of Selectmen, and the school committee, and town officials in the library for hosting us this evening. As Josh mentioned, I have 30 years of experience in firearms laws. I spent 14 years as an assistant district attorney in Middlesex County, prosecuting a wide variety of cases, including obviously firearms cases. I've also actually, in my private practice, applied defendants in firearms cases, and for the last 14 years, I've been honored to be representing Natick, Sherburne, and Middlesex District. Massachusetts firearms laws are complicated, but I think I have a very good working knowledge of them. What I'm going to try to do this evening is just to go through some of them, explain them in as dispassionate way as possible. Try to explain to you the different types of licenses and what it allows people to do. And I'm not going to get into, what my own personal philosophies are, or what I'm planning to do, other than to just say I think that the legislature, I know, will be going through all of our laws to see if they're appropriate, as we do in every area of public safety and public good over the next session. There are 3 types of licenses that an individual can apply for and receive in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I want to just try to go through the differences, because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about it. As I said, I'll try to do this as dispassionate as possible. The first and broadest is what's known as a Class A license to carry a firearm. And that permits the purchase, possession, and carrying of all ammunition, handguns, rifles, shotguns, and feeding devices, both large and non-large capacity. And I'll get into that in a minute. And this is the only license that allows the carrying of concealed handguns, either loaded or unloaded. That's a Class A license. It's also the most common type of license to carry. The Class B license to carry is it permits the purchase, possession, and carrying of all ammunition, non-large capacity handguns, and all rifles and shotguns, both large and non-large capacity. And I'll get to definitions in a second, because the definitions are very important. And then finally, there's the Firearms Identification Card, or FID card. And that permits the purchase, possession, and carrying of non-large capacity rifles, shotguns, and ammunition only. And also, there's a restricted one available for mace and pepper spray. That doesn't seem to be appropriate. And a large capacity firearm, and this is important, is defined as a semi-automatic handgun or rifle that is capable of accepting more than 10 rounds, or a shotgun capable of accepting more than 5 shotgun shells, or it is an assault weapon. And note, a .22 caliber rifle with a fixed tubular magazine is not considered a large capacity weapon. Now, I know that the term assault weapon isn't a good term. It probably doesn't mean anything to anybody. There is a definition of it. There was a federal definition of it, and now there's a state definition of it, but I'll try to give you in layman's terms as possible about that. And I realize it drives people crazy when that term gets used, but it gets used, so I'll try to do it. An assault weapon is basically defined as a semi-automatic rifle, and that has 2 or more of the following additional characteristics. It would have a collapsible stock, a pistol grip. It could be capable, well, let's try this. It also has to, any semi-automatic that's an assault weapon has to be capable of accepting a larger clip, something more than 10. It doesn't have to have it, but could be capable of accepting it. Or it has a flame suppressant, or a bayonet, the ability to hold a bayonet, or the ability to hold a grenade launcher. That's in layman's terms what an assault weapon is. Okay? It has to have 2 or more of those, but also be a semi-automatic rifle and capable of taking a clip that's larger than 10 rounds. So I realize that that's a lot of information, okay? And it's not a good definition, but it's as good as possible. Under Massachusetts law, you can't own an assault weapon unless, and this is what the law is, unless that weapon was manufactured before September of 1994. You can own one with a Class A license to carry if it was manufactured before 1994. The reason for that is there was a federal assault weapons ban in place for a period of time. The Massachusetts law was based on that. The federal law expired, wasn't renewed, and then Massachusetts passed its own version, but there's still that, what I'll call a loophole in pre-1994. You can own them with a Class A license. In addition to that, gun clubs can get a license from the colonel of the state police. Chief Hicks can't do it. It has to be for the colonel of state police that allows them to keep large capacity weapons or assault weapons pre-1994 at their club, but not remove them from the premises except for certain exclusions. Now let me talk a little bit about what the licensing requirements are. Chief Hicks was kind enough to talk a little bit about what the exclusions are. I just want to expand on that a little bit. First off, before you get any of these licenses, if you are a convicted felon, you're not eligible for anything. That's number one. Number two, if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor that has a potential penalty of more than 2 years in the House of Correction, if you've been convicted, not a continuation without a finding, another disposition, but an actual conviction, that's not another exclusion. Or if you've been convicted of certain narcotics offenses, or if you've been convicted of certain firearms offenses, those are automatic exclusions. However, if you have a misdemeanor conviction of less than 2 years in House of Correction, potential maximum, because you don't have to serve it, but a misdemeanor conviction of that type, that's not automatic exclusion. Secondly, the other second automatic exclusion, and this is where things get tricky, and I'm hoping Dr. Gordon can expand on this a little bit, is the so-called mental health commitment exclusion. The only exclusion from getting a firearms license in the mental health requirement is if you have been committed or confined to a mental health facility, or you've received treatment in a facility for habitual drunkenness or narcotics addiction, okay? But that's where things get a little murky, okay? Because the police, in reviewing the application, have to know about that, and that becomes a database problem. The other thing is it requires a confinement or a commitment to a facility. So what that means is if you have been seeing a therapist for an extended period of time, or if you've been taking psychiatric drugs for an extended period of time, that's not an exclusion. That's not an exclusion at all. So that it would be a misconception to say that there is a mental health screening. There is no mental health screening. Under Massachusetts or federal law, there is no mental health screening. The only real issue is, have you been confined to a facility, or have you been committed to a facility? And they're very different things. And I'd be looking for Dr. Gordon to talk a little bit about that. Then there's the whole issue of suitability, as Chief Hicks talked about. Suitability comes into play in the licenses to carry, the Class A and the Class B license. The police chiefs, the local police chiefs have a certain amount of discretion, that's reviewable by a court on the question of, is this a suitable person? On an FID card, however, the police chief has no discretion whatsoever. There is no suitability requirement. So what that means is, as long as you don't meet the exclusions relative to the mental health commitment or the felony conviction or the other convictions, you are essentially entitled to an FID card. What an FID card allows you to have is basically a rifle, a shotgun, or ammunition. A rifle, a shotgun, or ammunition. And where some people start to have questions is rifles, of course, on an FID card can be a semi-automatic. And as long as it doesn't allow for more than 10 rounds in the same feed, clip, or magazine at the same time. That's the basic laws related to the ownership, possession of the farm. That's basically what the requirements are. As I said, I'm not going to get into what's right or wrong or the rationale behind any of that right now. I will tell you the legislature will be involved in a total review stem to start of all of these laws in the next year. I guarantee you that. But that's basically what we need to know, I think, about them. And I'm going to turn it to the next week.
Thank you very much, David.